Welcome to the Camera Club Council of Tennessee's virtual experience. I hope you've enjoyed a few presentations already. I'm Maurice Griffith. I'm the treasurer of the 3CT and a longtime amateur photographer. Never been a professional, but I take a lot of photos and I've been shooting since I was 14 years old. I take about 10,000 photos a year and most of them are not good. So my expertise is actually in post-processing. I rarely capture an image that I'm satisfied with, and I rarely see somebody else's image I'm satisfied with. So I love to post-process, and I've taught Photoshop. I have had opportunities to photograph pictures all around the world. I was a corporate trainer for IBM worldwide. So I have traveled a lot and taken advantage of that by bringing my camera along. I'm going to give you 5 keys for capturing memorable images. An image may be good or even excellent, but what makes it memorable? We will discuss 5 techniques with examples of images employing these 5 concepts, plus a memory method for recalling them. A 6th key will also be discussed, and it'll be a personal one tailored just for you. I'm going to start with a series of memorable images. You may have seen some of these. You may have seen some of them many times. This one is The Decisive Moment by Henri Cartier-Bresson. He captured the scene looking through a fence in a train station in Paris behind Saint-Lazare station. And the decisive moment has kind of become the catchphrase of Cartier-Bresson, and it's something that we can think about as when is the moment to press that shutter release. Memorable image 2 is kind of a historic photo because it breaks the normal tradition of what photographers in those days shot. It's called The Steerage in 1907. Shows a group of apparent migrants coming over on a ship taken by Alfred Stieglitz, and that's claimed as one of the greatest, or many think it's one of the greatest photos of all time. It captures in a single image both a document of its time and an artistic modernism. It's displayed at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. The next one is an image of Lincoln by well-known photographer Matthew Brady, one of the earliest photographers. He's best known for his photographs of the Civil War. This one was taken in 1860. The next image that is quite memorable, at least for me, is a Dali image named Dali Atomicus by Philippe Halsman. And Dali was a participant in the creation of this image. So was Halsman's wife and his assistants throwing cats and water 26 times, as it took 26 takes and over 5 hours to capture exactly the image that he had intended. Halsman is also well known for his jumpology images, capturing celebrities in midair. When I saw his book, Jumpology, I decided that would be a fun thing to do. So I started with my little brother, had him jump into the air and capture his image, and then went from there with other people, as many as I could get to cooperate. I did not get the celebrities that Halsman did, however. But it's a fun thing to try. It supposedly captures people in their raw form without much posing. It's just what they look like, loose and free, jumping into the air. Try it. My next memorable image is Migrant Mother. I'm sure you've all seen this one. This is from 1936 by Dorothea Lange, taken at a camp of migrant farm workers. This image captures a mother and her children during the Great Depression. The children actually would catch birds to eat, and they would eat frozen vegetables. This one is a little much for me because I don't like being in high places. And look at all these workers building the Rockefeller Center in Manhattan. They're suspended 850 feet above the street below. And when I saw this, I wondered, where is this photographer and what's he doing and why is he way up there? And then I learned we don't even know who the photographer was because there were many photographers out there that day shooting these guys. So to this day, we're not sure who the actual photographer was that captured this image. Memorable image number 7, the Hindenburg disaster, taken by Sam Shear in 1937. We all know something about the Hindenburg disaster. Having used hydrogen, very flammable hydrogen, it was a very volatile gas and did not work out well as the Hindenburg was landing in New Jersey. They did even have the docking lines down. You may be able to see the docking lines hanging from the ship. This definitely was a decisive moment. Sam Shear had only 2 shots left on his speed graphic, and he literally shot from the hip, just point and shoot, and captured this very decisive moment. This actually is one of mine, taken from the back of a car in Chennai, India. It was a rental car, but in India, when you rent a car, I wasn't aware, at least in my case, I also rented a driver. So I had a very cooperative driver who was able to drive me around and would wait for me all day, whatever I wanted. So he was very cooperative in my getting some good shots in Chennai, India. I will show you a few more. He was yelling at me, no, 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 to opening the window for this little boy. Don't give him any money. That's a very bad thing to do. I'm not going to go into all the reasons for that, but they had some pretty good reasons for not giving money to these kids. It's not certainly not a high quality image, but yet it meets one of the other criteria very well for me, and that's the one we're going to get to. The E is going to be emotion. What makes an image memorable? Artistic. Does the image exhibit elements of design? Does it draw emotion? Does it show emotion? Do you get emotional looking at it? What's the image quality? Is it technically a good image? Does it have one subject? Is there a subject? Or are there multiple subjects and you're not sure which one you should be looking at? Is it unique, or can anybody take the same shot? If they're in the same position, the same time of day, can they just shoot the exact same shot that you took? The object is to make your image unique and not be one that anybody else can take. Sometimes not even an image that you can reproduce. And the last one, that's the AEIOU. And I thought, but we say, and sometimes why? So why, I decided, stands for you. Does the image reflect your personal interests? A, let's look at artistic first. Does the image exhibit good elements of design? You may have studied design if you've taken an art class or even photography class. Sometimes they'll talk about the elements of design, including artistic aspects of an image: lighting, composition, lines, shapes, textures, patterns, colors. Just be aware of these elements of design. This is one of my favorite images to illustrate lighting. I rarely use artificial light. Occasionally I'll use a strobe light. But in this case, the natural lighting at this coffee shop, named the Zombie Coffee and Yogurt Shop in San Juan, Puerto Rico, was just the lighting was just right. It just came out really well. The color, the light, I think there was a little moisture on the ground from rain. So this just seemed to work for me. So this is just an example of natural lighting that I observed and captured. Composition. We need to think about composition. This one, for example, does not use the rule of thirds, which I think is fine in this case. Rules are meant to be ignored sometimes, but you should always remain aware of those rules. This is my granddaughter coming down the slide with the light shining down from up above, providing some backlight, and then the tube itself, the slide tube, kind of framing her in the frame. So that's one of my favorite granddaughter shots. Lines. In this case, these are just natural lines of these trees leading up to into the sky. Here are some more lines. In this case, there are a lot of lines in here. Some of the lines are the support framework for a dock, and they use that. They give us that triangle effect that many people like to see in their photos, with gulls in the foreground and even lines caused by the waves in the water. So we have lots of lines in this image. Here we see an example of a lot of shapes. This one was taken at the Ringling Art Museum, specifically in Sarasota, Florida. And here I've got some arches and the lights and the columns and even some sculptures, giving me lots of shapes to compose with. And we've got leading lines and perspective. So this one came out pretty well. Thanks to the museum itself providing me with this shot. This shot was taken in Death Valley, also illustrating some shapes. Here we've got contrasting colors and contrasting shapes, and this one just came together for me. Textures. This was a sculpture at a park in Port Angeles, Washington on Puget Sound. And I just liked the texture and moved in close to this sculpture. In Seattle, Washington, near the Seattle Space Needle, there is a museum of pop culture, and it had these patterns. This whole outside museum is made of these metal plates with this interesting color scheme to it and light reflecting off it beautifully. So this just provided me with some really interesting patterns. What I saw here was some colors. I wasn't thinking colors when I shot this. I think I just saw contrast when I shot this. It was a contrast between the popsicle stand closed, because when I shot this, it was the middle of winter, and it was in Imuden, North Holland, Netherlands, and it was the middle of winter on the North Sea. So I was actually pretty chilly when I was out there on the North Sea. It was windy and cold, and I had to imagine what the beach would be like in the summer with a popsicle stand open. But I liked the contrast between the plain beach colors in the winter and the bright colors of the popsicle and the popsicle stand. I'm going to throw in a few quotes, because I like quotes from famous photographers. I have quite a collection of them. This one is by Elliot Erwitt. He said, "To me, photography is an art of observation." So just seeing the scene itself can be an art. You need to decide what's artistic about your image, or what can you do with it to make it artistic. Dorothea Lange said the camera is an instrument that teaches people how to see without a camera. And this is maybe one of my favorite. I could probably have two or three absolute favorites, but this one is I have found so true, because when I became a enthusiastic photographer, or re-became it, I guess, over and over again, I keep learning. I am becoming a more aware photographer. I am realizing I learn how to see. I see things, even when I don't have my camera in my hand, I see things that otherwise I wouldn't notice. An insect, a flower, a pattern in the sky. Photography teaches you to see, and you will see differently. Dorothea Lange was an American documentary photographer and photojournalist, and she's known for her Depression era work for the Farm Security Administration. Emotion. Does the image evoke emotion for the viewer? The big E. How do you feel when you look at an image? Happy, sad, amused, angry, sympathetic, motivated, nostalgic, warm, cold? Does it make you feel anything? This one was taken at a garden gate in La Flèche, France. I was walking by the garden and this puppy came up and stuck his head through the garden gate, providing me with a nice frame to get a portrait of this little dog. This one is just funny or just amusing. It's an ostrich. This one was taken at a little farm in North Yorkshire, England, and the ostrich was as interested in me as I was in him. This is a little heavier emotion, taken at Normandy Beach, and particularly Omaha Beach in Normandy. And it was taken at sunset, and I just happened to catch the sun behind the memorial at the beach. At the grave. This one is from St. Kitts. We took a open air excursion train and I could take lots of photos along the way. And this one just struck me. I saw this guy sitting by this grave in the field. It was the only grave in the field. It was not a cemetery. And I had to just wonder, what emotion is he feeling and how does that make me feel? This is one of my favorite shots of all time. Peekaboo, this little girl in South Africa. She was at a souvenir stand. Her mother was selling souvenirs by the side of the road, and she came over and ducked under the fence to look at me and my camera. And those big eyes just really captured me. And I just fell in love with that little kid in South Africa. This is from Pompeii. It kind of brings you back to what would it be like to be in a volcano where you see these figures that are just encrusted with lava, and you just wonder what kind of experience that was to have to live through that or die in that. Very emotional place to visit. Ruth Bernard said, "For me, the creation of a photograph is experienced as a heightened emotional response, most akin to poetry and music. Poetry and music invoke emotions as well. Do your photos?" Okay, let's go on to I, I, image quality. Is your image technically good? Does it have a good range of luminosities? You can check it with levels on your camera or curves in Photoshop. Is it sharp? Did you focus sharply? Do you have the right aperture for the right depth of field? If not, can you sharpen it in post? Is it color balanced? Did you balance it when you took the shot? So that's something we very seldom do, I believe, is check our color balance before we shoot or adjust it for the current white setting. Level, is it straight? Is the horizon straight? Even vertical lines, are they straight? If a photo is not level, I have a really hard time liking it. Literally in Facebook, I don't do the like if it doesn't have a level horizon. Clear, is your lens clean, your filter's clean, don't shoot through dirty glass. You've got to do the best to have a clear shot. And noise. Can you use a lower ISO? Can you post-process for noise reduction? Now, post-processing noise reduction has become very good, so I find myself shooting at higher and higher ISOs, maybe sometimes higher than I should, and using that noise reduction. But the recommendation, of course, is to shoot at the lowest possible ISO and reduce that noise in your initial capture. This is like one of my favorite shots and technically one of my very worst shots. I'm sitting at a cafe in Mykonos, Greece, and I just kind of pointed my camera from my table, pointed over it toward this Greek fisherman because I didn't want to pick up the camera and point it at him and get his attention. I didn't want to disturb the scene. I just wanted him to continue on. So I just pointed the camera in that direction and shot. Unfortunately, I didn't get good focus. I didn't get good exposure. So I had to do some post-processing on this one. And again, fortunately, with AI, I did some sharpening, and finally, for the first time, although I've been editing this one and playing with it artistically and with topaz, and I just couldn't do it until AI, and now I was able to get pretty decent sharpening on this photo. I even took out some distractions with AI. So I now have something that I may actually try to print. This shot was taken of the orangutans at Tampa Zoo. It's one of my favorite exhibits at the zoo. I love the orangutans. They're performing, they're always interesting. You can see their personality, and I probably spend more time there than at any other spot in the zoo. However, the lighting is not good, and this shot is straight out of camera, and you can see there's some really bright areas and some dark areas that just don't lend to a good quality image of this shot. So what I did is I post-processed it, adjusting luminosities by area in many cases, and keep your eye on it for a moment while I switch to the post-process version. Okay, did you see that? You can see a little bit of what I did. I could have done more, but I don't want to over post-process it. But you can see the luminosities are much more acceptable in this final image. Here's another. I guess I've got a lot of bad shots to show. Maybe that's why I learn so much, because I make all the mistakes. This one was a once in a lifetime shot. We were in Wales, and Llangollen is the name of the town here, and I badly underexposed the shot. I don't know how. Maybe the light from the sky was just too bright, and I was getting the exposure based on the skylight. And I thought, this is a throwaway. I'm sorry. It looked like it might be interesting, but it wasn't any good. But wait, I process this. I can process this in RAW. I have the raw image, and I know I can adjust the exposure, but can I adjust it enough? So I worked on this one for actually a long time. I made many adjustments to it, beginning with exposure, and this was my final image. You wouldn't know it was the same picture. I adjusted the exposure. I also adjusted the perspective. I took out some distractions, including some of the power lines, but not all of them. And I adjusted the color. I cropped it. If it was available to do it, I probably did it to this image, but I'm very happy with my final image of Llangollen, Wales, UK. This one, just to show that I don't always take bad shots and don't always have to post-process, even though I always want to. This one is not post-processed. This is straight out of camera. This time I'm in Vevey, Switzerland, and on the shore, and just took this shot. of the, I'm not sure what that building is. Looks like maybe a church down there. Quote by Ansel Adams, there are no rules for good photographs. There are only good photographs. So the rules are not the thing. It's good to be aware of the rules. The rules may be helpful, but if you're breaking them, know you're breaking them, and just be aware of some of the good suggestions. O, AEIO, one subject. An image should have a main subject or a point of interest. Your image should be about something. There should be a primary subject. You might have leading lines to the subject that might help identify the primary subject. There shouldn't be any competing subjects, but you can have complementary subjects that actually add to the photo, but your eye wants to always go to that main subject. One thing I do to emphasize the subject is vignette, and I've been doing more and more vignetting. Even a small amount of vignetting can improve photos just by emphasizing the actual subject. Try it, just play with it a little bit and see if you like vignetting. And bokeh, or bokeh as some prefer, or control the depth of field to get that blurry background or blurry foreground, or just be able to control the depth of field through your aperture setting. Clutter. This is what I consider a cluttered photo. It's just too much. I don't know what the subject is. I'm not sure where my eye should go. Well, one of the solutions to this, obviously, is to crop. So I crop this one down and I've eliminated most of the distractions. We now see the subject. The subject is the motorcyclist. I think there are other things of interest in this shot that don't detract from that. I like the jugs. I like the post office in the background and even the fence. But the motorcyclist is definitely the subject of this image. This one shows leading lines. In this case, the leading lines are leading up to this huge rock in Malappuram in Tamil Nadu, India. This rock is known as the Krishna Butterball. It's actually not quite this as spherical as it looks in this image, but it would certainly make you think it's a ball. It is not. It's kind of flat on the back, but it's a very interesting image, and it's got some leading lines going to it. There's a walkway going to it, and then the paths where people have scampered up to get up to it. And I've even got some goats. I hope you can see them. Some goats heading actually toward the butterball. And then on top of that, I was able to use that tree to frame it a little bit. So I kind of like this image of the Krishna Butterball. This one illustrates depth of field. This is a woman in the Caribbean making flatbread, and just watched her for a while. And I fortunately got the right focal point, a good depth of field with the background blurry, and even some of the foreground is out of focus. William Albert Allard said, "What's important is to simplify. The work of most photographers would be improved immensely if they could do one thing, get rid of the extraneous. If you strive for simplicity, you're more likely to reach the viewer." There's another quote I like that's much simpler, but it kind of says the same thing. If your pictures aren't good enough, you aren't close enough. Robert Capa. He's an Hungarian American journalist and war photographer. And that, again, is one of my very favorites. However, I'm also learning that sometimes I want to capture the surrounding area, as my wife calls it, for context. So I need some context to also, in some cases, I want to focus or photograph only the very center of the image, my very subject. So Just be aware again what's going to work best for that particular image. You, unique. This is actually what kind of got me started on this whole thing. You, unique. Is your image unique? I read an article on this. I thought, yes, this is it. This is what it's about. Your image needs to be one that nobody else can capture. It's very special. It makes it a one of a kind image. Can you do that? Is it one of a kind? If you have people in it, it's ever changing. There's people there, you're probably not going to get the same shot again. It captures a moment in time, and no one else can ever capture the same image. I like unique shots. A person in the shot almost always makes it unique. This is a shot of a restaurant called the Old White Swan in York, England. And my wife and I were there, and I just got up and took this shot. I kind of liked the lighting in the room, the colors, and then of course my wife adding that special something to it where there's no other but no other image like this one, I'm sure. And in this case, I think it really helps to have a person in that image. This is not your normal Mount Rushmore shot. I was at Mount Rushmore and I took the standard shots of the four presidents, looking at them dead on. And then I thought, what can I do to make this unique? I tried several things. I tried to get some foreground objects and the flags at Mount Rushmore and some of my shots. But I walked around to the side and I saw George Washington's profile. I thought, wow. And he's kind of framed with a little triangle and a little triangle with the rocks. And I thought that is not a normal Mount Rushmore shot. So I captured it and I like it. I don't know if it's totally unique. Any photographer could do it, but I think most don't. In Venice, Italy, you, you would normally recognize a Venice shot because it's got St. Mark's Square in it, the Basilica, canals and bridges, and certainly always gondolas. None of that is in this one. This is a Archie's Rooms, a low-end hotel, cheap rooms. You pay extra for hot water, but a very colorful little building, and I just like the name Archie's Rooms and the sign, and the guy out there with a putting I don't know, menu or information on that little chalkboard. I guess it's the menu for the restaurant next door. But I'm sure this is a one of a kind shot. I don't think anybody else is going to get this exact shot, even though they may have images of Archie's Rooms. So that's the reason I like this one for being unique. Okay, this one is mine. It's my granddaughter. As a baby, she's 16 years old now, so I know I'll never be able to get a shot like this again. And I kind of like the toy and the framing and the lighting on the shot of my granddaughter Shaylee. Henri Cartier-Bresson, we talked about him before. And the quote from Bresson is, of all means of expression, photography is the only one that fixes forever the precise and transitory instant. We photographers deal in things that are continually vanishing, and when they have vanished, there is no contrivance on earth that can make them come back again. Kind of like that. That's your unique shot. You can't do it again. Then there's that sometimes why, the vowels A, E, I, O, U, and they say sometimes why. That's you. How does your image reflect your personal interests, your personality, your tastes, your passions? Those are going to be the best shots that you're going to take, are ones that you can get into, that you feel passionate about. For me, it was there are a lot of things. One is hot air ballooning. I've been up in many hot air balloon rides around the country. And this one was in Vermont with my daughter. And it's my daughter behind me. You can hardly see her in the blue top. But here we are taking off for our excursion over the fields in northern Vermont. I also like sailing. I like boating, but I've had many kinds of sailboats. I've raced sailboats, and I always wanted to take a ride on a 12-meter yacht, an America's Cup style boat. And on one of the excursion opportunities on a cruise in the Caribbean, uh, we actually got the opportunity to take a 12-meter yacht out. And to my surprise, it was way more than I expected. It was not only a yachting expedition, it was an actual race. And the race was between the USA boat, uh, Stars and Stripes, and the Canadian boat, 12-meter, True North. And they kind of chose sides among the tourists. And my wife and I got picked to be on Stars and Stripes. Like, that was a thrill for me I can't even describe. So this is something I was very passionate about. So we got to actually race in an America's Cup 12-meter yacht, and we raced against Canada, and we won the race. So this was like the perfect day for me. Now, obviously, I didn't take this shot, but it's just one that it hits me emotionally and personally, and is obviously a very unique shot that applies that why you, the one thing I'm interested in, one of the many things I'm interested in, but sailing is a big one. George Brassai is a Hungarian artist and photographer. He flourished in France in the 20th century. Uh, his quote is, "In the absence of a subject with which you are passionately involved, and without the excitement that drives you to grasp it and exhaust it, you may take some beautiful pictures, but not a photographic oeuvre." And the French would pronounce it a little differently. Actually, the English pronounce it oeuvre. The American pronunciation is more oeuvre. But however, if you're French, if you can speak French, you can probably pronounce it better than I can, either one of those. But anyway, that is the work of art, a work of art, or the sum of a lifetime work of an artist, an oeuvre. Okay, let's look at some of these and see how A, E, I, O, U, and Y apply. Here's a shot of Yosemite at sunset. It's actually El Capitan that we're looking at. And would you say it's artistic? I don't know if you want my opinion, but I think it's artistic. It's maybe not be emotional, except it was for me because I was there. It's a good quality image. To me, it does have one subject. El Capitan is the subject, but the spires are in the background there on the right. Is it unique? Probably not. Anybody can take this shot. They have to catch the right sunset, the right light, the right time of day to get anything close to this, but it's not guaranteed to be a unique, one of a kind shot. And you, yes, it applies to me because I was there. We're back on a sailboat again. This is a sailmaker in Sydney, Australia, and I got to go on this boat. It actually is a replica of the Bounty, and I think it's artistic. It has the Sydney Opera House in the background. Uh, Emotions based on your own feelings. It's a pretty good quality image. It does have a subject, even though the Opera House is in the background. That just kind of provides context to it. The sailmaker is definitely the subject. And it's probably pretty unique. It contains a person. I don't think anybody else is going to take this shot. They may have at one time, but it'll probably never happen again. And then, of course, it reflects me because I enjoyed Sydney and enjoyed being on the boat. And I actually got to sail the Bounty, take the wheel for a while. So yeah, it's personal to me, and I just one of my favorite shots. I also like to take these directional signs. They give you directions from tourist spots, how far it is here and there. Is it artistic? Maybe not terribly. I did use the rule of thirds. Does it evoke emotion? Maybe not. Is it a good quality image? It's okay quality. It has a subject, the signs. Is it unique? Probably not. Anybody can take this shot. Does it reflect me? Not particularly, but I was there. This one definitely reflects me because it was taken in Holland, Michigan, my hometown. The windmill in the background is the famous De Zwaan windmill. It's the oldest authentic Dutch windmill in this country. And it's also a very large, full-size windmill that was disassembled piece by piece in the Netherlands and brought over on a ship to be reassembled in Holland, Michigan. Is it artistic? Well, I think so, because I like the tulips framing it. Does it evoke emotion? Certainly for me, because I love tulips. I grew up with tulips, went to tulip time every year. The Tulip Festival has about 5 million tulips, and this year was the first year that they had almost 1 million visitors in Holland. It's a good image quality, I think so. Uh, I was laying on the ground to get this one, and a friend of mine that we were with went over to my wife and said, "Is Maury okay? He's on the ground." Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just laying down to take this shot. So I think it's probably pretty unique. And as I mentioned, it definitely reflects my interests. I also have lived in Florida for a long time and spent time at Clearwater Beach. And here we see a guy feeding the seagulls. He's got a bag of popcorn there, and the seagulls are definitely interested. I think it's artistic. It kind of uses a rule of thirds. Um, does it evoke emotion? Well, if you're into seagulls, I guess it's a decent quality image. It has a subject. I think the guy feeding the gulls is the subject. Is it unique? I'll bet so. I'll bet you'll never see another shot that looks exactly like this. Does it reflect me? Not particularly, but I liked being there. Some final thoughts. Not all memorable images will contain all of the AEIOU aspects that we mentioned. In fact, probably a few will, but just be aware of them and think about them. In many cases, an imperfect image may have factors that compensate for what would normally be considered poor quality. So you may miss in a few areas, such as my one of the beggar boy in Chennai, India, looking through the window of my car. Uh, not a high quality image, but I think it has something that is redeeming about that image. The viewing of a photograph is always subjective. So when I said that, you may have said, no, that was a horrible shot. It's subjective. You may think it's a horrible shot. That's okay. It means something to me. Remember to think about the future of the image. What's going to happen to it? Like my neighbor asked me, what do you do with your 10,000 images you shoot every year? What do you do with them? Well, who's going to see it? How will it be presented? And what's the future value of this? No, it doesn't have to be future value. It can just be your joy in just taking the shot or post-processing it or printing it or sharing it or however you want to use it. But think about these factors. One more final thought. Henry David Thoreau, it's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. And photography hopefully does help you learn to see. And my final farewell to you is carpe imago, seize the image. Hope you're enjoying the virtual experience, and thank you for watching my video.